Right, good morning everybody. Welcome. My name is Pim van Baarsen. I'm CEO for the Silverton Technology Cluster. Today we have our Roots to Manufacturing Success event organized by the Digital and Advanced Manufacturing Special Interest Group. Should be a really interesting session. Very much looking forward to this one. So as per usual, what we'll do, we've got 3 speakers for you today. Each of the speakers will go through their presentations and we'll do a brief Q&A session at the end of each presentation. Please feel free to use the chat functionality for your questions. That's probably the best route to go about it. I know that some of the speakers will be asking questions to you as well, so be prepared to plug into the chat functionality. Which if you scroll on your screen towards the bottom, you see a little chat button. So if you click on that, you get access to the chat screen. Teresa, I know, is already active, which is great. So thank you very much for joining. I'll now hand over to our first speaker. Alberto from HSSMI is the first one to start. So over to you, Alberto. And as usual, this is always quite interesting, where we've tested that all of this works beforehand. So let's see if it still works now, because it did work earlier. But I've had instances where it didn't. So over to you, Alberto.
Thank you, Pim. Yeah, it did work indeed. So everyone, thank you for joining us. And yeah, I'm Alberto Minguela, and I will be talking a bit more about funding in general in the within the UK, and also more focus. I was talking to Pim about what your most interest in, and I'll also touch on some opportunities as well as some tips that I'm willing to share with you. So I'm sharing now my slides. As Pim said, I think they came right perfectly as we were expecting. So as I was saying, Roots to Manufacturing Success. This is a chat about funding. I'm Alberto Minguela. I'm the Research and Innovation Manager for HSSMI, and I coordinate technical teams on putting together successful bids to either INNOVATE UK or Advanced Propulsion Centre, but a myriad of grants for innovation, but also other tenders, and as well as the European funds. However, we are not going to touch on the European just now. Yes, as a brief summary, so I will introduce HSSMI very briefly, and I'll touch on later on the different fundings that are available now. These are some of the ones that you may know or may not know, but we can expand on those in the Q&A if you're interested, or later on. I will go through some tips for a successful bid based on our experience on going for different bids. And I will touch on some examples of this innovation that is being funded or not, because one thing I want to convey in a message here is that for having a success on this sort of grants and bids, you need to fail a couple of times, if I'm honest. But of course, if you seek support, you will increase your chances of success. So HSSMI is a sustainable manufacturing innovation consultancy. And we support manufacturing industries and helping companies within that extensive supply chain, not exclusively the manufacturer, but as well the technology provider, tier 1, tier 2, etc., to respond to 3 market challenges, being the increase the productivity, upscaling products and processes. So I know many of you have different prototypes or different products, or at a certain level. Maybe you want to reach higher volumes, so that's also on where we focus. And lastly, and very important, it comes to me, the transition towards a circular economy. How we do this? So we actually connect you to engineering experts. We do strategic manufacturing consultancy projects, so more on the reports or looking into what strategy to get to certain ambitions. Bespoke engineering services, so we have strong technical teams to support companies in different areas, and these are more bespoke and participate or support on collaborative R&D projects, in which I'm gonna touch more on today. So after this brief introduction, and I didn't want to linger too much on that and focus on here on the funding, what funding is available. I was talking to Pim early before to this webinar, and I wanted to bring some maybe light touch, and if there is more interest, we can dig more on this, the different funding streams that we see here in the UK. So first, INNOVATE UK, you maybe are well aware of INNOVATE UK. They manage most of the funding now, and they recently had a rearrangement. But what we've seen recently, since the industrial strategy was announced by government, was this Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, so ISCFs. Within this, we see several challenges that the government wants to focus and want to commit towards, making Britain great again, and also focusing the efforts for industry to become strength and be more competitive. I wanted to highlight two of these challenges to you, which I thought are more relevant at this stage. However, there are a few more, so happy to expand on that. One being manufacturing made smarter, which I believe Alan will touch on. This is the whole challenge with that name, manufacturing made smarter, but it has different streams. I'm now touching just exclusively on the innovation R&D stream. This is very recent. There is a current round, which actually closes tomorrow. It's a bit tight if you are interested on, but there will be further rounds. And this one is very focused on digitalization of the supply chain, how OEMs or certain manufacturing, maybe a tier 1, tier 2, or you as a technology provider or any other operation, how you communicate with your tier 1, tier 2, or different suppliers. I'm putting here some links for you to later explore more if you're interested, but I'm also open for your questions. Another one that is currently has received further funding is the Faraday Battery Challenge. You may be well aware of this challenge. We've seen the Faraday institution. We've seen also being funded the UK BIC, which is Battery Industrialization Center. And within this Faraday Battery Challenge, we saw 3 rounds going from 2017 to 2018. And now they got extra funding from BASE for this round 4, which the competition is now open and have a deadline on the 9th of December. We see here feasibility and innovation R&D. You have here some details, and I will be sharing these links so you can explore more. As you can see, there is a myriad of different funding streams which you can make take the opportunity on those. But I always suggest, and we will touch on this and on how with a strategy approach, because we also have the APC, or Advanced Propulsion Center. This been set up by industry and government to support mostly on the automotive sector. However, it has some spillover into other sectors. We see here very large projects, OEM-led, so this big manufacturer, and hence we see as well how this large project has a large capital investment. But we have the APC rounds, which the open competition, which is currently at the moment, is deadline 14th of October. But also we see the Automotive Transformation Fund. This is up to 1 billion available in 4 years' time, if I recall correctly, with multiple rounds and different scopes. Right now, there is one open for large capital projects. On deadline 1 week from now, this may be of interest if you are in a good position, but it's probably interesting for you to look at them more in detail. This is another sector. This is more for aerospace, and you may be aware of this already, the ATI, Aerospace Technology Institute. This was set up in 2017 to achieve a strategic ambition to take the aerospace civil sector more strength and more competitive. So we see here expression of interest that happens monthly, with the deadline for this month is 21st of October. and NATEP, which is funding for SMEs to get into this sector with a deadline 14th November. But one thing that's important that from 1st October, we see a suspension of the match funding policy of 50-50, and this will allow companies to get more in detail. We can expand more on that, what that means at a later stage. And this is, this is a summary. This is only, I think, the most relevant to you at this moment from INNOVATE UK, Advanced Propulsion Center, and Aerospace Technology Institute. We see as well some funding on pharma, some funding as well on agriculture, and other different challenges as construction. And so we will welcome later more of the batteries, more of the the questions you may have. I wanted to jump on tips for a successful bid. On this, I'm pulling out from my own experience, the experience from my team, and then actually, I discussed this with many of more of the junior individuals and in our teams. So first is what I aim to do, and you may know this about the 7 habits of highly effective people. That's a quite interesting book. What a good proposal look like. So looking at what you need to submit there to be the winner, we need to remember this is a competition against other companies. You don't know what they do, but you need to know what you do, and so what looks like as a good proposal. So first and foremost, align to the competition scope. Read it through. All those links that I put earlier goes to a scope, and you will have there more information. You need to align to that with your answers. Look at what your innovation, what's innovative about that, and what's the big challenge that you are addressing. It's important to have a strong business case, because it's all well and good that you want to solve all the challenges and problems of the world, but if you don't have a strong business case behind that, that's meaningless for a government to, grant you money. You need to have a convincing value proposition. I bet that you all know what your USP is, your value proposition, who's your customer. So just convey that message clearly in your proposal. You need to have a credible plan for research and development. We need to remind this is innovation. You need to bring something further in the technology that you are proposing. So you need to have a clear plan and credible. You may have risks, and of course that's why they are offering this funding. But you needs to sound credible, and there needs to be a clear need for support. Of course, if you won't be able to do this by your own, and you need to collaborate with others, of course that's the clear need, as well as they will be asking you those questions within the proposal, and you have to have the right kind of risks. As I said, there is no technology advancement without risk, but you need to convey that message that you understand the risks and you will take the right considerable actions. And what I say to all is above all, what you need to understand is, you need to make sure you write an application that excites and inspires. At the other end, there will be a person that reads that, the assessor will read it, and you need to inspire into him some excitement to say, I want to fund these guys. There's something I tell everyone who embarks in writing and going for bids is think before you write. Of course, you need to have some sort of strategy, and as I was saying, read to the scope, but you need to, understand what the challenge you're addressing. Need to know what this particular funding is intended for. I was saying that all these funds come from the industrial strategy, so you need to understand a bit what the government wants and how you meet that scope. Of course, you don't need to lie, you don't need to tweak completely what you want to do, but it needs to be some alignment, and it's up to you to demonstrate that there's a line. Once you start to look at a particular funding, you need to look at what are the gaps. Who do I need? Is that I need some support to write? Do I know what I'm doing? But also, do I have the right partners? Maybe I need to find for someone else. There's a story, and behind your project, I was saying, inspire the assessor. It's great if you create a narrative and there's a story behind that. And that's precisely what I was saying as well on the gaps. Is there any gaps in your story? Do you have all the key stakeholders in that story to complete that? And very important, what documents you need. Is there any risk register? Is there a Gantt chart to show exactly what you do? But also, do you have a quick diagram to convey what your innovation is and to clearly explain in very succinct messages to the assessor who you are, what you're doing, who's your team, and how you are the best to deliver that breakthrough technology. So we can help you this, and we can help on overall funding strategies. We can look at the project scope as well, and we can liaise with the funding bodies, build the consortium, find those partners for you, as well as bid writing. We are not bid writers per se, but we have a very strong technical experts on certain areas. Also, as well as the coordination of partners and grant management. This is not intended to be exclusively a pitch. I was giving you some good tips for you to understand what a good successful bid look like. And I wanted now touch on some innovation funding. As I was saying earlier, so success is only one of the marks, is when you get there. But to get there, you may need to fail first, and I'm sure many of you know this. You've been going through that process. As I understand, most of you in the technology cluster, you've been working your way to the position you are now, and you surely know more about that than I can convey in this message. I wanted to show you this, for example, is a APC project, Advanced Propulsion Center with LEVC, the taxi company. In this case, what we support is a new product introduction into the current manufacturing line. If I aim to convey this into, for example, a new technology that goes into a new into a product. So how do you introduce this? How do you convince that large corporate to take on board your project? So for example, I'm gonna put a quick video here. And so in here, we simulated what could be the impact of that new product. Of course, we do it conceptually because we don't need so much fancy graphics to understand, but this simulation in real time can also, this simulation can show you what in the instance when you introduce that new product, what could happen, what could be the classes, what's necessary. And I wanted to also convey in here what was the improvements that we saw into this this new product introduction support with the simulation, in which we saw improvement in the cycle times, but also we saw how the utilization of machinery could be also increased, and there was some validation of the return investment, and what is very important, I think, from this new product introduction with LEVC and the simulation support, was easier to see how the impacts of bringing a new product or a new technology into a company, how you can plan for that and without the large investments that may represent. So it supports decision making, and as we know, larger corporations or OEMs really need to understand what's the ROI to make that decision. Another example of funding, this was quite fast, we must say, and we were brought in, after talking to Ford, that was part of this ventilator challenge here in the UK, and we were brought in and we were brought in successfully as we had experience supporting manufacturers on creating digital work instructions. The digital work instructions were not taken off, but we saw with this need for being remote, really helped to upskill and bring the operators from a line making engines on Ford to making a component of the ventilator, the Penlon ventilator. Here we saw how we created a bill of materials, what needed to be put forward, introduced into that, and also because they were digital, you could connect with the Penlon guys, and hence the operator could make questions. And receive answers almost in real time from one person that was far away. These were only few samples, and I think this is, is the time we were having to entice you and think what could be other opportunities for you. I'm happy to answer any question. I think I saw some into the chat, but please get in touch. I think Pim will share my details later.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Alberto. Very, very interesting. Denise actually asked a question. Thank you, Denise. We'll come to that in a moment. I just wanted to kick off with something first. So in some of your slides, and as you rightly say, we will be sharing your slides with everybody later on who's on this event. But obviously in your slide, you mentioned sort of various funding options, and you provided some helpful links and all that sort of stuff. But if I was a company, where could I go? Is there a single source of information where I can go? Is there like a website I can go to that just lists all the funding streams? How does that work? Yes.
So probably I jump my slides to those, okay? And we maybe can do even a quick test there. So there is something that is called the Innovation Funding Service Platform, IFS. Okay, IFS is where Innovate UK and the government is bringing all the funding available together. Okay, we see as well even the APC, which is a separate organization, also bringing everything into the Innovation Funding Service. So let's see if I can click here and it take us there, and you probably can see. Pim, can you see my screen then? There.
We're still on the slide.
Okay. So it's probably because it's a very good question, and
probably
maybe
select a different screen to share, right?
Yes, that's exactly. So you can see now, I believe.
We're getting there. Yeah.
Okay. So this, I just click in one of the links that I'm sharing the slides, and this is the Automation Transformation Fund. But the Innovation Funding Service is like the one-stop shop for government grants, and we can see here there is up to 28 competition. Okay, currently open. These are the open ones. Okay, and you see you can put keywords here. However, you can scroll down and see, for example, this one, modernizing energy data applications. If I click on this one, just as an example, you'll see many more. But as an example, you can go to here. Some of them, you will see clearly when it opens and when it closes. Most of them tends to close on a Wednesday at 11 a.m. Okay, that's a big day for when you submit, and it will have a small description. What you can see here is the summary, eligibility, scope, dates, how to apply, and support information. All those tabs are consistent throughout all the applications that are shown here in the Innovation Funding Service, IFS. Okay. Is there anything else, Pim? Maybe I can.
No, I think that's very good, and hopefully that's very useful for the people watching and the people part of it today. I'd like to go to Denise's question, please. So Denise Pasquet, I'm sure I butchered that, and I do apologize. From the Open University, her question was, typically, what success rates can applicants expect? So when you apply for funding, what are the chances of you actually landing that?
Okay.
Information on that?
So the fair answer here, it depends on how competitive one of the scopes are. Okay, you can find a bit more on how competitive this is with some of the available support from INNOVATE UK or knowledge transfer networks which are around. You can find out that as well as on the briefing events. So you can go to any of these competitions, and it will vary on the type of scope. So, for example, if I go back to innovation funding service, what I know from our insights, the ATI lately are not very competitive because not so many people is going for those. Maybe it's because the large corporations are in a struggle, so it's the list of their priorities. But if you go to what they call the smart grants, that everything fits in those, and everything, I mean, from graphene to any other thing that you can imagine, INNOVATE UK smart grants. These ones are very, 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 very competitive, but it will depend on the scope, I'm afraid.
So it's really a case of identifying what the project is for you, and how you can make the most of it. Now, Teresa made a point, because there's funding available through Medilink as well, and if anybody's interested, they certainly should get in touch with Teresa. But that's raised kind of a question for me. So presumably, it's not going to be possible that if you apply for funding in one particular project, that you can apply, and presumably the project consists of numerous elements. Then presumably it's not possible to apply for a separate funding stream, even if it's with another body, for one of those elements, because you'll be cross-funding then, right? So how does that work? Is that possible? Or?
Exactly. So, Pim, you need to be careful in those instances. So I think here we can see some information, but there is some, what is called state aid regulations, which they describe how you receive funding. Of course, you can make applications, okay, for the same project in different funding streams, tweaking for the scope, okay? But what I would suggest is to first understand what the different scopes are and what is the most suitable for you and your ambitions. It may be the case that in some scopes, it helps quite a lot saying that, look, I'm doing this for X sector, aerospace, let's say, but it has spillovers into medical sector. And hence later, when you go one level down into starting application, which starts from here, this green button, you'll see a set of questions. Those questions is like a simple business case. You start with what the problem you address, how you're addressing that problem, who is in your team, etc., etc. And at some point, you get more on the value for money and the wider impacts. And on that, and also understanding the market. So you may understand that, your project, what you're aiming to do, has spillovers into many other sectors. That's quite attractive because you all of a sudden you make the return on investment much shorter in time and greater in percentage, because you are not only benefiting the aerospace sector, but you are also creating something that can be applied here and there. That's clarifying the question.
Yes, I think so. Thank you. Denise has just followed up saying one of the INNOVATE UK's flagship funding schemes is the Knowledge Transfer Partnership Program. Typically has an 80% success rate, so that's worth considering. So for any companies sort of watching and part of this, do please have a look at that as well. So yeah, if you search for KTP, you should be able to find that. Monica Das has just asked an interesting question. And presumably it very much depends on the type of bid. But she's saying, what planning timescale should one allow for an application, typically?
Yeah, so typically for me, I usually leave about 4 to 6 weeks to rally to finding the partners. Okay, but then you may have then another 4 weeks to actually bid, write the bids. You can do different things in parallel, and I do have background on project management, and what I do is some works in parallel. So if there is a lead partner, which is probably yourself, Monica, you have an idea, you start to develop that idea in alignment with the questions you're gonna have in parallel, you start to see what those gaps that I was saying earlier, and then you start to make to look for the right partners to make connections to the Innovate UK or the funding body, particular funding body. So I will say, 10 weeks is the sweet spot for it. I must say, I must recognize that we've done, I've done things in 5-10 days, been successful, but also been terribly unsuccessful. So that's, allowing you time to do these things in the right way. It could be around 10 weeks. That will be based on my experience, to have everything sorted and increasing the chances of success.
Excellent, very good. Thank you very much for that. Right, I'll stop your sharing now because I'm conscious of time, and I think we'll move on to next week. But thank you very much, Alberto. That was very informative. If anybody would like to follow up, we will be emailing all the people here today Alberto's details as well. So there is an opportunity for you to follow up sort of offline after the event, if you wish. So thank you, Alberto. We're now moving on to Alan from Made Smarter. So Alan, over to you, please.
Thank you. I may turn my video off just to save bandwidth. It's been a little bit jerky, so don't worry if I disappear. So I will share my screen. Can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Fabulous. Okay, can I quickly ask before we start, just a quick straw poll, if we can use the chat window. Who has heard of Made Smarter before today? And I'm aware of that there are a few Made Smarter sort of funding streams, but who's heard of Made Smarter? Just a yes or no will be fine. And then when we get towards the end, we'll have a look at those and see what the results are. So for those of you that haven't, you're in luck, because I'm going to take you very briefly today, a whistle-stop tour of who we are, what we do, and most importantly, how you can get involved. And also what I'm going to do as well is we've got some really interesting facts and figures. As a pilot program, we need to collect data for review and evaluation purposes. So this is data that we've collected. It's aggregated, so it doesn't identify anybody, but it will give you real life examples and issues that businesses have encountered. Some of them will come as no surprise, but they're not anecdotal. They're real life issues. And so far, we've engaged with about 1,000 SMEs. So, what is Made Smarter? Well, Made Smarter was created following an industry-led review of how UK manufacturing can prosper through digital tools and innovation. This was led by UK government and by Jürgen Mayer. You may have seen, he's quite high profile in the media, and he was the CEO of Siemens. And they made some really important recommendations, which you can probably see on your screen there. There's 4 areas, which were leadership, adoption, innovation, and skills. And these really are what Made Smarter has been founded on. These are our blueprint for our pilot program. So what do we offer? What is the support available in the Northwest? So I think, as Alberto said, there are a few. Made Smarter has got the Challenge Fund, but there's also a technology accelerator as well, which I can give you the links for, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So what we can offer is, and we are only in the Northwest at the moment. So if you're a manufacturing SME in the Northwest, we can help you. If you're not, we'll cover that at the end. We'll talk about where this goes in regards to the future and national, what we know and what we don't know, what we hope. What we can offer at the moment in the Northwest for manufacturing SMEs is grant funding for implementation of Industry 4 projects, and I'll cover that as well. And that is matched funding. Once again, that's 50% from us, 50% from the business, up to a total of £20,000. So we'll put £20,000 in, and the business will put £20,000 in. So £40,000 total project. And we do this really by The lines underneath, you can see that the business assessments and line walks and the digital strategy. We do that by understanding the business and actually working with you to produce a digital strategy or a digital roadmap. We would, in pre-COVID days, come out and get engaged with the business to see the business, understand the business. And we're doing that virtually at the moment. And hopefully it'd be great if we can go back to doing that face-to-face in the future. But it works. We've been very, very busy during lockdown and during COVID. We're still working on massive amounts of projects on a daily basis. So we will help you to support that, that digital strategy, produce it that aligns with your business objectives. We also offer digital technology internships. It's quite a mouthful, but effectively what that is a student, an internship. And we will fund them up to a total of, I think, 480 hours, works out about 3 months-ish, and we'll pay them the equivalent of £12 an hour. So you can have one of those to support a project that we're working on with you, or you can have one standalone, and we'll come to this at the end. If you know of anybody that's interested in that, the internships are currently open to 2nd and 3rd year undergraduates, recent graduates, MSc students, at any stage of their course, and postgrads. And we typically look for students that are doing relevant courses, so technology design, digital technology, mechanical engineering, those sort of things. But if you do know of somebody, get them to contact me. We also offer a subsidised leader management programme. And what this is really, this is done through the University of Central Lancashire. And what it does, it shows the business leaders how to work on a digital strategy. You'll work with other leaders of companies. There's a peer network there, and from academics and business practitioners. So that's subsidised, and that's flexible learning as well. But once again, I'll give some links at the end to that. So there's a few buzzwords on the screen there that you can see, and I try not to, when I do these events, not to use too much jargon, too much technology, but sometimes it's unavoidable because that's the industry we're in. So I may refer to Industry 4. You know, what is it? What is Industry 4? And I'm not trying to teach anybody to suck eggs here. But really what it is the automation of traditional manufacturing industrial practices using modern smart technology. And that's not me, that's the web that's quoted that. So I may refer to Industry 4 or IDT, or just digitalization. So we'll use any of those terms throughout. And they cover some of the buzzwords that you see on there, you know, so robotics, 3D printing, or you may hear 3D printing called additive manufacturing. So that all these various skills, and what you don't need to worry about is understanding them, because quite fortunate, we do understand them. So when we first started, we started in November, so October 2018, I think it was. The review was 2017. We started 2018 working with businesses, and we came across all sorts of barriers. You know, people, you know, businesses saying, not sure it's for me. You know, we've been doing okay for years. We don't need to do anything. I don't have the time or the resources to look into it. I've got a business to run. So all these sort of barriers we came across. You know, what's it going to do for the business anyway? How much is it going to cost? So all these are real fears. But what we do know is that there are drivers for the business, and you've got to move on. So as I said, we conduct surveys, we get data from the businesses, and so this is what we found really, and hopefully some of this will chime with yourselves, with your organisations, and you can see that you're not alone. People have the same sort of fears and objections maybe as your business does. So the sort of theme of this as well, I forgot to mention at the beginning, is my idea with this, the slides that we've got here, is that my aim is to show you why you should adopt digital technology. It's crucial to your business success. And so you'll see that theme come up on a few of my slides. So the survey identified the main drivers, and these are not in any order. They're not even alphabetical, are they? They're not in any particular order. They're just drivers. There was a recent report, I think, by PwC that said that it's really high numbers, about 86% of businesses say they're ready to invest in new technologies to boost their competitive position. So, and it could be that a lot of these drivers, one or many of these drivers, are pushing you. I mean, it's the difference between wanting to change or needing to change. You know, change may be forced upon you, as in COVID or Brexit, that horrible B word, or you know, you just you want to be more competitive, or there's all sorts of reasons to change, and each business has a different reason for doing so. So, what have we found whilst we've been working with, as I said, we've engaged with over 1,000 businesses since we started this. So really, I think we expected this, is that when we went out to the market, we found that the technology readiness levels, the businesses that we work with were varied. We've come across a single computer to fully automated shop floors and sophisticated IT infrastructure. So we do know that the businesses that have engaged with the pilot are of a lower technology readiness level than expected. There's low levels of digitalization and its benefits. That's fine. That's why we're here. And a lot of the businesses that we engaged with to start with were really on the first rung of digitalization, and that is data and systems integration. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. There is a lot of the firms that came in were primarily from the foundation industries. So they were, cement, paper, glass, ceramics, metals, bulk chemicals. And there was some perceived resistance as well. We came across resistance from people worried about, and rightly so, people worried about losing their jobs, or from senior management who have always done things a certain way. General perception as well that Industry 4 technologies are beyond an organisation's reach, and not just financially. So financially, organisations think, well, we can't afford that. Technically, they don't know enough to actually put the technology in place. And also, I will mention while we're here, we're totally agnostic, and I will go through this in that we don't come into an organisation and try and sell you one particular product or anything like that. So because I think there's obviously from industry, you probably get sold lots of things every day, people phoning you, emailing you. We're totally agnostic. We do what's good for the business, not what's good for the software company. So our advisors, when we go out with the businesses, noted that most of the businesses we were seeing were unaware of the benefits of digitalisation before they joined Made Smarter. So the pilot really helps drive a change in mindset. Some organisations assume as well that it's not for them. They may have their machines are too old, or they're legacy machines, but this is not the case. We can generally, in most instances, help. So never assume that you have to have a smart factory to go down this route. You've got to start somewhere. Also, it doesn't have to be a big or costly project. So you can take a little part of your business and think about how it could improve. We've got organisations where the staff are driving that by putting suggestions in. They work on a day-to-day basis on the process, so they know what works and what doesn't. So, and it helps buy in as well. And we've also found businesses that we've gone in that have started down the road on adopting some digitalisation, but didn't know. They didn't know they'd already done it, but they had, so they got a little bit of it. So, but overall, a general willingness. A positive attitude towards embracing new technologies, which is great. That's exactly what we look for. So, I think I said, on the previous slide, that by far the most dominant theme for project support types is data and systems integration, and that is really just joining up your existing systems and processes and extracting that data out, and then that gives you an eye for where you go next. So what we generally find, and I think that consultation findings say that data and systems integration is a key prerequisite for digital transformation. So it's your first rung on the ladder, and it starts you off because you can get a taste for it, you see what data you've got and where you can go next. So on this slide, you can see by far the biggest quadrant on there is data and systems integration. And we do get, and I'll preempt a question, we do get businesses coming back for a second or third grant. I think we had a total of 14 businesses up to June 2020 who come back, and then the ratio changes a little bit because they'll come back and they'll adopt one of these. They'll go down a route of, so we've got robotics here, we've got Internet of Things, or they may come back and do some more data and systems integration. So, that really just shows that I think that data system integration is key. Next slide is really, what it shows you really is how varied the industries we work in. And I think I wanted to show you this really, because it's sort of touching on that fact that I said that a lot of businesses think, it's not for me, it's not for me, I've got an old-fashioned plant that, you know, it's still in the dark ages. It's not the case. It's not the case at all. It doesn't have to be a smart factory. It can be any factory. It could be your factory, your business, your plant. So this just shows the varied industries you work in. You probably can't read that, but it's too small, I think. But the slides will be sent around so you can have a look at them. So next few slides are really insightful because they're sort of a deep dive into some of the, when I was talking about the perceptions on the few slides before, these are a sort of a little bit more integral in terms of the questions they ask. And so what it says really here is that the reason organisations don't adopt digitalisation is, and it's very, very clear, even with small slides, you can see that there's a lack of knowledge and a lack of money. So luckily for those businesses, we can help with that. And if we look further, you can see here, I think the total is nearly, it's touching the 90% for business who have basically said that they don't have the knowledge or the skills and don't have the finances. As I say, that is not a problem because we can help with that. And as I say, it doesn't always have to be costly either. I like this slide once again because, as I said at the beginning, if the next two slides, if I wanted to prove to anybody without a shadow of a doubt that digitalisation is worth doing, is crucial to business success, then this one and the next slide really do show it. Because what this, if I take the top two out of this, it shows that when we've left the business behind and we don't just work with you and then disappear, we do support you. But what I mean by that is that the businesses are showing an improved use of IT and tech. I've lost counting of the businesses I've worked with in the past where we've put stuff in and it's just gathered dust, it's never been used, but this shows that they're really using. This helps for a number of things. It helps with upskilling, helps with legacy, with all that sort of stuff. The fact that the tech's being taken in and being used shows that it was the right thing. And then by far the second one, business growth and expansion, which I think that is, 44%. I think the biggest one that we had back was micro businesses reported the greatest impact in terms of business growth and productivity, with 44% of businesses reporting productivity growth. So that is really, that's really gratifying for us. It shows that, we're taking the steps to do the right thing. This slide, and once again, if I didn't have to put any other slide in out of all these slides, this is the one I would put in that really, really does say to you, digital technology is crucial. It's absolutely crucial to business success because overwhelmingly 84% of businesses who work with the Made Smarter pilot said that it had a positive impact and increased productivity in their business. Also, we see the supply chains as well. Once you start digitizing parts of your businesses, your supply chains become digitized as well. And that opens up boundless possibilities for businesses. We can see we're a little bit disappointed with increased exports and reduced carbon emissions, but when we looked into that further, we saw that those are more of an embedded process. They take a longer time to come to fruition. So we're confident that those over time will improve as well. So that is the one slide that really, I think, if you had any doubts about engaging with the pilot or even with us, we can just give you advice, guide you the right way. If you had any doubts, I think this shows you that it does work. It really does work. So that's the facts and figures that says share with you. So if I've convinced you to get involved with Made Smarter, or if you know somebody and you can go and convince them to spread the good message, then how does it work? What happens once you contact us? What does it look like? What's the journey? So once you make contact with Made Smarter, and that is very easy to do. We've got a number of digital channels. You can even pick up the phone and speak to us. We'll speak to you as well. I'm open to all my contact details are all over these slides. Happy to contact with you on LinkedIn, by phone, by however you want to contact me. So contact us, Made Smarter. We'll then do a business assessment. Basically see what it is you're trying to do. Sit with you virtually at the moment and see where your business is going. What is it you want to do? And then we will help you to build a digital strategy and align it with your business objectives so that it meshes perfectly with what you're trying to do. If you've already got one, if you've already got a plan in place, we'll sit down and review it with you. That's not a problem at all. We'll then give you technical advice. So you'll get your technical advice and we'll decide then which route you're going down. It could be that it's data and systems integration. It could be you think, oh, we need a robot or whatever. And we've got, we have business advisors and we have IDT advisors who are specialists in that field. And they will make the recommendations of what technology you need to adopt. We then will help you to, if that's the way we're going, because you don't have to go down the funding route, and we help with this all the way. So a lot of people worry about red tape and stuff, but we will help you. We'll fill the forms in. We'll help you put it to all the process it needs to go through and obtain a grant to part fund it. We could maybe then even put the rest of these on so you can see them. We maybe even then get you a student, an internship to assist with your project implementation. And maybe you want to go on a leadership course. And after all of that, we don't just walk away. We will monitor you, come back and ask you for a case study if you'd like to do that. Maybe come back and have another project. The first one we do with you, or the second one, you may find that it's so good, you do another one. So what I've done now is I have taken a few of the standard questions, just in case you didn't ask me any questions, I suppose. Taken a few of the questions that we generally get asked and put them on this here. I'm guessing you'll have more for me as well, but the main one that gets this was, if I'm not in the Northwest, what do you do? Can we help if you're not in the Northwest? So Made Smarter is a Northwest pilot at the moment. We think it's doing well. The government, I think, thinks we're doing well. So all that is good, touch wood and all that. But we haven't had any notification yet that that it's anywhere else. We're hoping it will be, and the rumblings are being made that it probably will be. So what happens is, if you contact Made Smarter and you're outside the Northwest, we'll direct you to your local growth hub in your area, and they likely will have, maybe potentially have funding that can take you. So we'll refer you elsewhere is what we're saying. So next question I've got in here is, how long does it take to apply and when will I receive the money? So as you can understand, each application project is unique and distinct. So our advisors will work alongside you to scope it, complete the application form, and then submit a review. Following this, you'll get a decision. If your project is approved, money will be released to you within 2 working weeks. That's good, isn't it? I think I touched on this and mentioned it a little bit in the slides, didn't I? Can I apply for funding for more than once? Yeah, we've got. So what tends to happen is, because it's not, the funding, match funding that we give is £40,000 total project. So the projects tend to be of a smaller size in nature. So yeah, people do smaller projects and come back and do a few more. So yes, you can apply for it more than once. And another question we get asked is, because I touched on this as well, is that how do you get the right technology provider? Because obviously we don't, we don't recommend anybody one supplier over another. But what we do have, and we've just launched it recently on the Made Smarter website, is a technology directory, which we do vet them. We don't recommend them, we do vet them. And so they are, the directory is organized in the skills that they have, the solutions that they offer. And once again, moving on to my last slide, if you are a technology supplier, get in touch. If you, I don't know the makeup of the audience today, but I'm going to put a shout out to all of you, whoever you are. So if you are a supplier, then get in touch. Give me a call, because we've got a supplier database. We'll have a chat. Let's see if we can get you on that. If you're a manufacturer, I think that's what we were talking about, isn't it? If you're a manufacturer, we want to speak to you as well. If you know somebody that you think fits the bill, get them to speak to us. We don't bite. And once again, don't make that assumption that it isn't for you. Make the call. Let's have a chat, because if it isn't for you, we might be able to direct you to another support program that is for you. So make the call. Digital technology internship. If you you are a student, you're starting your own, you're a student there, and you want to apply for the internship that way, then give us a call. If you want one in your business, give us a call. Get the theme there, don't you? And also the leadership program we've got as well. All of these can be done standalone. They don't have to be, you don't have to take one to take the other. You can take them apart. So all the links are there. I think that's the end of my time here. Thank you for your time.
Excellent, Alan. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. We've got questions coming in thick and fast, so
okay.
I'll put some of them. So Denise has asked an excellent question again. With regard to the digital tech internship, is it open to older interns, i.e. those wanting to change careers and skills, or is it only available to students?
No, you've got to be on a course already. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but it's not open for people that are looking to change careers.
No, we don't put you through the course. We take, so the way we do it is we take a student off a relevant course and match them to a manufacturer, or vice versa.
Right. And then Teresa asked, with regards to the intern as well, that even if the company is up north, presumably the intern can come from any course from any university.
Yeah.
Right. Excellent. I think you addressed this briefly, but Dolores Sanders from Total Control Pros asked an interesting question, where she says, I completely understand agnostic approach to the right solution. However, as technical know-how is a gap, how do you assist the company in what they need to know to assess possible solutions? And how do your consultants stay abreast of everything that's available, given that given the funding being given to innovation, new solutions are coming out every day. So how do you address that? But am I right in saying, because I think we talked about this earlier, that the company themselves can suggest a potential supplier as well, right?
Yeah. So I should have said that. Yeah. So if you've got an existing supplier, you can work with those, assuming that they're okay. They're because we do due diligence on them to make sure that they they're a reputable company. But yeah, you can use the one that you've got. And Dolores, it is difficult to keep abreast of technology, isn't it? Of what's on the horizon. Our IDT advisors are quite geeky, so they do keep abreast of it. But I think I'm linked in with Dolores anyway. I think so. Happy to have a chat about that.
Excellent. Now, so you addressed the issue that obviously it's for the Northwest and it's a pilot program. You've obviously indicated that the signs are that you're doing well and that it's likely to be rolled out in other places. Because if I was a company in Southwest, I would be looking at this presentation going, hey, that's fantastic. When and how can I join? Where can we go to and I presume it's obviously still in progress. So is there any information on sort of what the likely timescales are on whether or not it might be rolled out anywhere? And if so, where could I go to find out more? That at least I'm in the line to
of course, yeah.
Right.
So what happens is, in terms of timescales, it's a difficult one because I could say, oh, it's the new year. Yeah, we're in unusual times, aren't we? So all I can say is that the rumblings are, you know, that it's been perceived quite well. It's been taken quite well. So we're hopeful. We are hopeful. So what would happen would be, if you're outside of the area, if you register with Made Smarter, we keep your details, and as soon as because the Made Smarter website, the new website went live at the beginning of September, is the new national Made Smarter website. So if it does go national, that website will be the sole website for the whole of Made Smarter. So come to that, register, and what will happen is we'll keep the details. We will let you know as and when it moves on, but we'll also direct you to local support as well.
Excellent, thank you. Zoe Walton is asking, is there going to be a second Made Smarter pilot? Because presumably your program is coming to an end at some point, and will there be a follow-up? Do you have any information on that?
Well, we're hoping so. Yeah, we're hoping that because it's been we as I say, we were born out of if you see from the presentation, from November 17 was the Made Smarter review. October, I think 18 was when we started, you know, helping businesses. So, but there's been a few bumps along the road, hasn't there? We've had Brexit, we've had you know, an election, we've had a pandemic, which hasn't helped, you know, in terms of what you want on a continuous, you know, continuity of a pilot. So yeah, we hope that maybe our pilot might get extended a little bit, or that new ones may come in. We don't know. I think hopefully we'll know by the end of the year, maybe, if not sooner.
But the key is to register and make sure you're on the database where you can find out. And
if you're a supplier, we work with, if you're a supplier, not a manufacturer, you know, we have suppliers on the supplier database all over the country that work nationally. So, but for grant purposes, yeah, just register with us.
So Dolores, if you're not already on there, I suggest you have a go. And obviously, as I said before, you know, we'll share the details of the speakers with everybody, you know, following the event, so that there's opportunity for you to follow up. Now, Denise has asked, Denise from the Open University, do Made Smarter use any academic partners as well?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So MMU, University of Central Lancashire. So I think John Moore's. So yeah, we do. Yeah. My role really is about creating those links into networks. So get in touch. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So Denise, please do get in touch. But if
you
would,
Denise, thank you.
Take that as well. So so please do. Excellent. Right, that's fantastic. Thank you very much all for your great questions. That's superb. Thank you very much, Alan, for a very insightful presentation. I hope that the scheme will get extended and be available in more areas in the country, because it looks fantastic and seems exactly the sort of thing that we could use. So hopefully it keeps going. But thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. I'd now like to bring in our final speaker, Shirley from the AMRC. So Shirley, over to you, please.
Thanks, Pim. Hello, thanks for inviting me along today. It's interesting to hear the other presentations because we do link in with some of those programs as well. So hopefully you can see that. So I'm from the University of Sheffield Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre. I'm going to whiz through some slides about who we are and what we do, and there'll be some examples of how we work and some of the businesses we work with, and some examples of the different types of companies that we work with. So just moving my slide there, that's better. So we've been around for 20 years, and we started off as a very small research group working with Boeing principally, which was unusual because I don't know if anyone was in Sheffield around the turn of the century, but it was in need of some regeneration. So it was unusual that Boeing would choose who had no real UK presence at that time, apart from the defence work that they did. But you know, it was interesting that they decided to do some academic research with us. Our fundamental core work is that we help manufacturers of any size, not just giants like Boeing, any size, to become more competitive by introducing advanced techniques, technologies and processes. So the key thing there is, it's manufacturing. So if people, I quite often come across, come to events and speak to people, and there are a lot of people in the room who are not actually in manufacturing. And there probably isn't much for you if you're not into manufacturing. And we are carrying out research, but it is all about industrially led research. So we're not working on the low technology readiness level, early stage academic ideas. We are working on much more of the translational research agenda. It's about how can that actually help your business make manufacturing better. So it's all about what's practical and useful. And as I give you some examples, hopefully that will become a bit clearer. And then we work in some specific technology areas. So we work in specifically machining, automation, robotics and digital, as we've just been hearing about, casting, additive manufacturing, or 3D printing as people call it, composites, design, and testing, and also we train a lot of apprentices. So there's quite a wide range of things that we cover, but we don't cover everything. We have quite a big site. The purpose of showing you this is merely to just illustrate that. So we have 7 centres in Sheffield Rotherham, and then we also have a centre in Preston that we've just opened, and one in North Wales. So we've got, they're sort of much smaller. They've only got about 20, 30 people in them, whereas in our sites in Sheffield Rotherham we have about 500. We're part of the high value manufacturing catapult, which some of you might have heard of. We are one of, there are 7 centres that make up the high value manufacturing catapult, and we all are independent. Some of us are part of universities and some of the centres are entirely separate. So they're listed there. You may have come across some of them, perhaps National Composite Centre, Warwick Manufacturing Group, and MTC, Manufacturing Technology Centre in Coventry, are the most likely ones that you might have come across. But we're all similar in our approach, focusing on slightly different technologies. So in terms of what we do at the MRC today, we have in total more than 600 people. Almost everyone is a geeky researcher or engineer. I mean, there's sort of probably 80% of people who work for us are engineers. There are a handful of people who, do admin and marketing and stuff like that, but pretty much everyone else is an engineer. We have a membership structure and we have more than 120 member companies, and they range from companies like Boeing and Airbus and Rolls-Royce through lots and lots and lots of technology providers through to small businesses. Our smallest partner has 2 people in the business. So it's not just for large companies, but of course it's strategically important to him that he's part of the MRC. We also work with lots and lots of non-partner businesses, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. We mentioned the regeneration stuff earlier on, so there's been a lot of investment brought to the area where the AMRC is located, and we're part of the larger networks that Rolls-Royce and Boeing operate globally. They work with lots of universities around the world, and of course we're part of that network. Now, I've got a little video here, which just is 2 minutes long, and it shows you the inside of quite a lot of our facilities. So it's just useful if you've not been, it just gives you a little glimpse of it. I hope it's going to work okay on the bandwidth and everything. There's no narrative on it, it's just a music soundtrack. So, and it starts off quite quietly. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this is going to work okay. Okay, so hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview of sort of what it looks like and the kind of work that we do. I'll whip through some headlines of some of the actual research groups that we have, just to give you some headlines, and then I'll give you some examples of just a couple of projects that we worked in. So where we do all our sort of digital and robotics and automation work, we call that the Integrated Manufacturing Group. And that group really started from the thought that aerospace businesses mostly assemble things, not like automotive, they assemble things manually. And it's quite hard to automate that because of the size and complexity in moving things through space. Robots are not usually accurate enough to do that accurately enough and at their required speed. So lots of our original work in that group came from that kind of area, but of course now it spans across all sectors. We're working a lot on construction in the kind of modular housing, and through to, we did a project recently which was helping us as very small business who packs vitamins for, like own label stuff for supermarkets, and they were looking to, it's a manual line, and they were looking at automation for that line. So it's everything from houses and airplanes through to much smaller projects. Lots and lots of work on digital and on Industry 4 and on data and process monitoring and that sort of thing. Another one of our groups is focused on design and prototyping. Now, when we work with small businesses, very often, especially or startups, this is an area where we find most often they need support with design. And it can be a couple of things. It can be either they haven't got the design skills to create the concept in enough detail. It might be there's a specific technical area of the design that they're short of capability, So, for example, we worked not long ago, last year, with a woman who was designing, it was a fashion range. And one of the things she had was a handbag, which she had designed, but she needed a mechanical fastener for it. And she didn't have the skills to design that. And we worked on that for her and prototyped it. So that sort of prototyping and help with concepts or specific technical parts of design is an area where we do quite a lot of work. There is also a large area where we find people have got often prototypes that work, and on the back of it, people are interested in buying their products, but actually the prototype cost a fortune to make, and it isn't really feasible to go forward into production with that sort of prototype and that manufacturing methodology. And so often you're doing a design for manufacture review and really looking at taking cost out of the product and the manufacturing methodology is an area where we do really quite a lot of work, particularly with smaller businesses. Larger businesses often have their own design capability, of course, but we will still work on specific areas where they don't have expertise or if they're short of capacity or whatever. Composites is another area. I guess that might be, as you're into motorsport, I guess that might be an area that's more relevant to you guys. So it's all about the manufacture of composites. So an area where we don't work is we would not work on the development of materials. We would use materials that exist already, but we would look at how you can manufacture with them. So our specific areas are looking at the automation of production, which there's a variety of robotic solutions and things like that. A lot of work on machining, particularly components that have been pressed, where we'd be trimming them, and particularly hole generation or drilling. The people who work in that area like to call it hole generation. But obviously there's issues around tooling and cutting fluid and delamination and all those sort of things. Advanced curing, looking at alternative processes, in particular microwaving is an area where we've been doing quite a lot of research. Novel materials and processes, which would be anything really that's not carbon fibre, and a lot of work on dry fibre processes, including weaving, is another area where we're doing lots of work. Machining group focuses primarily on machining metals, although of course there is some overlap with the composite machining, but primarily this is about machining of metals. And mostly it's machining high performance and aerospace alloys, so titanium, Inconel, and things like that, rather than, you know, we don't do much machining of just steels, or even really we don't do very much on stainless. Most of the things that we get asked to do are the harder to cut materials. And this is about really making step changes in the processes. So it's really about understanding the real details of the dynamics and fixturing and tool design, and really making some step changes in the processes there. We have, saying we have a wide range of state-of-the-art machining centres is slightly an understatement, I always think, because we have machines that can machine literally anything. We have micro machines that can machine tiny, you know, watch-sized components or smaller, and we have machines that can that are 20 metres in length. So we can machine anything really. So just a few examples of some projects that we've done. This project is combining two of the technologies that we work on. The first thing is, it is about machining, drilling and countersinking carbon fibre components. It's part of a tail fin for a product that BAE Systems were manufacturing and assembling. So there's a drilling and countersinking of composites process, but there is also, they wanted to use robots to do that instead of the bespoke machinery that they were having to buy. But robots were not accurate enough to do that. So by us working and creating the cell and understanding how to really work on the control systems and the cutting tools and understanding the vibration and fixturing and all the things that were required, we were able to create a robotic cell that would do the job. And it has saved, it's in production, BAE Systems are using it now, and it has, we demonstrated the technology, developed the technology, created the demonstrator, and then that's now implemented in the business. And it has saved tens of millions of pounds in terms of the cost, and it is reduced the cycle time by about half as well. We did a lot of work, we have always done a lot of work with Rolls-Royce on machining of some of their components, and we worked on the disc components that they make. There's a lot of discs in aero engines, and they were manufacturing them all in Newcastle, and it wasn't thought to be competitive. They were thinking about offshoring that work, but we were able to, using the technologies that we discussed earlier, able to help them reduce the time it took to manufacture the disc by half. And then they actually reinvested in the factory in Sunderland, Washington, to make sure that that didn't go offshore, and it meant that it was actually competitive to manufacture in the UK. And that's kind of at the heart, that's kind of what we're about. It's about keeping stuff in the UK and making it that labour rates are not the thing that matters. It's about using technology to make sure that the UK is competitive. One of the earliest projects that we did was we worked with Messier. We've worked on lots of projects with Messier, but when the 787 was starting, they had never been on a Boeing platform before. It was always an American company that had been manufacturing the landing gear. And we helped them to work out how to cost effectively machine the titanium, the components in titanium, and they were able to offer Boeing a titanium landing gear, which obviously is a lot lighter than a steel one, for the same price that the US company could offer them a steel one. So Messier won that order. and there was the cost of the time to reduce the components was reduced by a factor of 18. So, you know, we did it in, what, 3% of the time, something like that. And tooling costs were reduced by 30%. Now, in terms of working with businesses generally, that is a sample of our partner companies. Remember, I said at the beginning that we work on a membership model, so there's a snapshot of them there. It's not exhaustive, but you can see there that there are companies like Airbus and BAE Systems and Boeing, and Sandvik and Safran, but there are also companies there who you won't recognise. Some of them are because they are very small businesses. Some of them are because they are technical specialists. So there are a lot of companies there who are machining businesses. You know, they supply, some of them machine in the supply chain. Some of them provide technologies. So they might be people who make machine tools. They might be people who make cutting tools. They might be people who supply composites. There might be people who supply robots. There are a lot of people who supply software. So there's lots and lots of technologies there. And most of those people are there because they want us to use their technologies. And that helps them sell to the people who they want to sell to in the various supply chains that they operate in. So we have access to lots and lots of technologies. So, you know, you see the bottom one is Vertalis, who are into the VR and the AR stuff. And so as soon as anything new comes out, we get our hands on it immediately. However, we also work with hundreds of companies each year who are not partners. And about half of those are SMEs as well. So we don't just work with big companies, we work with lots and lots of small companies. Last year we did more than 500 pieces of work with SMEs. The sort of headline ways that we would typically work with companies and how companies would find us and engage with us. First of all, it might be a straight up research project. You know, companies come to us with a question and we help them with it. Alberto spoke at the beginning of this session about the collaborative research and development. We are consortium members and subcontractors, in fact, in lots and lots and lots of collaborative research projects. So that is a very common way that we work with businesses. Sometimes businesses are able to provide a technology solution, as we just were discussing. So it may be that it's a particular sensor, or it's a cybersecurity technology, or it's a solution for robotics or cutting tools, whatever it is. Lots of people supply those kind of technologies. We do quite a lot of supply chain activity, particularly through our OEM partners. So we have done work with Boeing, particularly as they set up their UK factory in Sheffield. We did quite a lot of supply chain activity with them. We've done it with Rolls-Royce, we've done some with BAE Systems. So often people will say, we are using this technology and we'd like to help our supply chain adopt these technologies too. We work with lots and lots of trade associations and other organisations like that. So I guess like you guys, or chambers of commerce, or growth hubs, or aerospace alliances, any of those kind of people we work with. Often we find people have a question which is often quite easy for us to help them with. It's not as big as a research project. A very common question that we get asked is, when people are thinking of doing an investment, particularly in something that's super expensive, like a machine tool. So often people will say, I'm thinking about investing in a new machine tool, but I don't really know what to buy. And, if you think about it, if you're trying to buy a machine tool, probably the only people you can get advice from are the people who are trying to sell you their machine tool. So it can be really useful for someone to get an independent view on what are the things in these quotes. Do you actually need all of those features from the family of parts that you're going to machine? what features do you need that maybe aren't there, and often, you know, you can end up with, people can save a lot of money and ensure that they're buying the right piece of equipment, that they are going to be the right thing for them to use. And then we hold ourselves a lot of events, you know, conferences, or we did anyway. We hold webinars now, but you know, when we get back into being able to mix again, we'll go back to holding technology-focused events and conferences, which, as I say, we're doing those online at the moment. So an example of a research project with a small business, a packaging company contacted us. Now they are not in aerospace, they don't have anything to do with automotive, they are a packaging company, and they, it's decidedly unglamorous. Family-owned business, and they were interested in automation, and we helped them to understand what kind of automation they should be thinking about buying. So we went and analysed their process, had a look at the kind of things they were trying to do, and then set up a demonstrator for them, and were able to tell them the sort of things that we'd used, so that they could go and select the right equipment that would actually help them to solve their problem. And they weren't just, you know, buying a robot that they hadn't seen working, or didn't understand whether or not that would work. In the BA Systems project that we just looked at, with the drilling and countersinking of carbon fibre using the robotic solution, one of the real keys to that was the feedback that was in the end effectors, the part of the robot that's really doing the clever stuff. And a key part of that was some sensors and control systems that were providing feedback, so that we were drilling the carbon fibre properly. And they were very hard to get, and an SME was able to provide us with that specific bit of technology. So that whole project wouldn't have happened without an SME. This is another example. This is a collaborative research project. So in this particular instance, there wasn't a massive consortium, and an SME was just a kind of bolt-on afterthought. This consortium consisted of 2 micro businesses and the AMRC, and we worked together on demonstrating and prototyping some biocomposites. So they weren't carbon fibre, it was flax fibre or bamboo fibre. And we worked on that and helped them to prototype something for, I can't remember what vehicle it was, it might have been a Porsche. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say now. I know I've covered a lot of things there. We do lots of stuff, and if you want to talk about any of it or ask any questions, the easiest way is to contact me directly, and we can have a chat about your particular situation. Okay.
Excellent, thank you, Shirley. Very, very fascinating. Obviously, it looks like you're up to a lot of really cool stuff. Just with that last image that you showed us, the sort of collaborative funded project. Is that something that you guys get involved in as well? I mean, can we as an SME come to you and say, hey, you know, I'm looking to develop this, and I've got this project. Are you able to assist with finding the funding for that as well?
Yes, we can do. I mean, it depends on what the project is, but absolutely, if anybody wants to speak to us, a big part of what I particularly do is to help people find the right solution. So, you know, it may be that the MRC is the right solution. It may be that MRC is not the right solution. And it may be that actually, you know, I know someone who can actually just help you do that and get on with it. Not everybody's problem needs a research solution. I think that's something that INNOVATE doesn't understand, or doesn't always seem to understand anyway. Sometimes the technology exists, and what you have to do is just adopt it, but you need to know the right people to speak to, and you need to know that you can trust them. So it's really about finding people who can help you select and implement technologies that already exist. Not every solution requires new technology and solutions to be implemented. But you would, by the sounds of it, then welcome people getting in touch with you. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who wants to get in contact. Yeah. Yeah, fantastic, excellent.
So Denise is obviously on fire with her questions today, and asked, with the decrease in aerospace activity due to the pandemic, has this affected your business at all?
Yes, it has, absolutely. I mean, we don't just work in aerospace, but our big partners, it absolutely has. So, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone in Rolls-Royce who we do work with was furloughed, everybody. So all the people who were working on all of our projects for Rolls-Royce, of which there were a lot, there was nothing for them to do either. So they were all furloughed. So yeah, I mean, it's hit us very hard. We work in other sectors though, so you know we find that construction is going like nobody's business. Rail is really busy, but yeah, it has hit us.
And what is the situation like for you now? I mean, are you guys seeing an improvement with things? Because I mean, we know that automotive and aerospace are hit particularly badly. But are you seeing any signs of a resurgence yet?
Yes, a little bit. I mean, everybody is finding other things to do. I mean, what we're really seeing is, and you know, this is a sector view, it's not particularly about the EMRC, but from a sector point of view with aerospace, obviously we know lots and lots of businesses who, and work with lots of businesses who are smaller, and they're in the Boeing or Airbus or Rolls-Royce supply chains. And because what happened was at the beginning of lockdown, all those businesses, you know, they didn't actually have to shut down. And if you're an SME who already has an order from, let's say, Boeing, the way that you keep your business going is you fulfill that order. So in sort of April and May, a lot of those businesses were all still working, and people were saying to me, oh, it's all fine, they're still working. But all it was it was a delayed shock, because then what happened was when the aerospace companies got back up and running and started to look at how much stock they had, what they then did was cancel future orders or postpone future orders. So, you know, a couple of suppliers were talking to me around about May and were saying, we've just been told we don't have any more orders until September. So, you know, things were being pushed back because obviously there was suddenly loads of stock in the system. And then also companies like Rolls-Royce, Rolls-Royce don't actually sell aero engines, they sell hours of flight time, and you know, it's power by the hour. So every time you fly your plane, you pay Rolls-Royce a bit. Well, if nobody's flying any planes, then that, you know, is directly hitting their income straight away. So yeah, lots and lots of issues in aerospace, and they're not, you know, they're not going away. There's going to be a long-term impact in aerospace on this. Yeah,
at one of our other events, we had the Midlands Aerospace Alliance presenting, and they anticipated that it would take at least 5 years as a recovery period to come anywhere near to where they were before. So. And I do think you're right. I do think that there'll be sort of a ripple effect almost, because as you rightly say, if you're pushing out the orders that you already have, that's great. But then obviously your future projects either get canned or postponed or whatever, that's going to impact you as well. So we're not out of the woods yet, but hopefully things will start to get better slowly but surely for everybody. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I just wanted to check if there's any other questions from anybody, either for any of our panelists. To be fair, you know, by all means, please use the chat functionality. Doesn't really look like there is. Obviously, if anything comes in, then I'll address that. But thank you very much, Shirley. And I mean, certainly from an STC point of view, I'd be very happy to have a conversation with you to see what we might be able to do together.
Okay,
and see how we can plug our members in, because you obviously have a lot of cool stuff there. Right, so I'll wrap up then, I suppose. So first of all, thank you very much, obviously, to our panelists. Really appreciate that. I think all the presentations were excellent and really interesting. So thank you very much for doing all of that. For everybody attending, I'd just like to launch a quick poll to get your views, obviously on today's event, but also on future topics that we might be able to address for you. So This obviously was an event for the Digital and Advanced Manufacturing Special Interest Group. We look at lots of different areas, and if you can give us a steer on what you would like to see next, we would greatly appreciate that. So do please complete that. Shouldn't take very long. In the meantime, I'd like to thank actually, what I'm going to do first is I want to highlight some of the other events that we're doing. Obviously, on the Service and Technology Cluster website, we have an events listing, so you can see our events coming up. So our next event will be on October 15th, which is all about setting your business up for future success. It's called Building a Winning Team for Business Success. So do please have a look at that and obviously register if you'd like to attend there. I'd also like to draw attention to our annual conference, which is happening on November the 26th. So please, you know, free for STC members. So please do sign up for that as well. And I know that we have a number of webinars coming up as well. So please have a look at the events calendar and obviously sign up for what's of interest. So I'd like to leave it there. Thank you very much to our audience on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again.